Indira Gandhi National Open University presents a program titled Roles and Responsibilities of Teachers in Context of Right to Education Act 2009 as part of its certificate program for professional development of primary teachers. The course code for this program is BESL 057.
Hello and welcome to this program of a School of Education. In this program, we will discuss the role and responsibilities of teachers in context of Right to Education Act 2009. To discuss on this, I have with me Professor Chandrabhushan Sarma, Professor in School of Education. Welcome, Professor Sarma.
Thank you so much.
Dr. M.B. Lakshmi Reddy, Associate Professor, School of Education. Welcome, Dr. Reddy.
Thank you very much.
And I am Gaurav Singh, Assistant Professor, also from School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University. You all are aware that right of children to free and compulsory education Act 2009, which is commonly referred as RTE 2009, came in force from April 1st, 2010. This landmark step has transformed the whole elementary education scenario of the country, and it establishes education as a fundamental right of children. Act has a number of sections, subsections, dealing with various issues of elementary education, which include right to admission, special provision for out-of-school children, duties of government bodies, local authorities, parents, responsibilities of schools and teachers. In present discussion, our focus will remain on the role and responsibilities of teachers. To begin with, I would like to ask Dr. Reddy that how RTE has impacted the scenario of elementary education in India.
As we all know, there have been perennial problems with the education system in India. Most of these things are equity of access, retention, achievement and quality. We know that how this Article 45 has been transformed by converting it into fundamental right under Article 21 by inserting Article 21A, and the state has confined its role to only early childhood care and education up to 6 years of age. In this process, the state has thrown responsibility on many stakeholders. Here, what in fact RTE has achieved till date, it is very important that RTE has enabled the nation to have at least a school within the vicinity of 1 kilometer of the children's residence. Of course, 98% of the habitations have a primary school within the vicinity of 1 kilometer. But even today, reports are there that 30 million children are still out of school. Further, this access or enrollment in the school by itself is not completion of elementary education. So here comes the question of retention and the quality of achievement for elementary education by the children in the school.
We'll come to retention, but I think what Dr. Reddy has mentioned and is very important, that it was very important immediately after independence that we focus our attention to primary education. If you look at the planning, you'll find that our emphasis was on higher education, and even till 1990s, we had only 7% participation in higher education. That was in fact a failure of schooling. We could not bring all children to school, so there was practically no competition. We favored those who were already favored. So, what Dr. Reddy has mentioned is very important, that this was a responsibility of the nation, and the constitution provided for it, that we will bring all children to school, but we could not. The Right to Education Act has definitely done a great job by promising that every child would have a primary, lower primary and upper primary in the radius of 1 kilometer, and perhaps the nation has already provided that to every child. Every child within the age of 6 to 8 has a lower primary school at an average distance of 1 kilometer. So what you were asking, Dr. Singh, what has this act done? I think it has definitely done a great job by ensuring that every child up to the age of 14 will have a school.
See, to further our discussion on the impact of RTE on elementary education in India, here mere providing access to the child is not sufficient thing.
Government has ensured the right of education of a child. As you mentioned, Dr. Reddy, that with this act, the onus and the responsibilities of ensuring the right of child for education is on many stakeholders, and teacher is one of the most important. I was asking, just as Dr. Reddy has said, that the onus of ensuring the right to education is on many stakeholders, and teacher is one of them, and teacher is one of the most important stakeholder. So let us reflect that what are the expectations under Right to Education Act 2009 from a teacher.
Look, as Dr. Reddy just now mentioned, that the first important thing was access, bringing children to school. Now, as it is said, and government has many times promised, that there is a school available to every 6 to 8 year at an average distance of 1 kilometer, we can trust the government that there is a school available. But then, as mentioned, that perhaps there is no teacher, there is no trained teacher. It's very important that the teacher knows and has been made aware of the roles and responsibilities of the teacher. The most crucial thing would be training of teachers. If you look at the training sector of our country, you'll find there is no component in the training where he or she is trained how to influence parents to send their children to school. Most children are first generation learners. Second is, if they go back and they don't show their progress to parents, they would not permit them to go to school any further. So retention again becomes a problem. Where is the training to teachers to convince parents, meet parents and talk to them and influence them? The parents are the most crucial element in retention of children. And if they don't believe that their children are learning in the schools, they would not send, because they are part of the bread earners of the family. So I think the roles and responsibilities of teachers as prescribed in the Act is to mention and to find it that students come to school, that students remain there and students learn, and so that parents are convinced, other stakeholders are convinced.
I think there are certain provisions in Right to Education Act. Before moving further, let me read those sections and subsections and then we will discuss on that. In section 24 of Right to Education Act, it has been written that a teacher appointed shall perform the following duties, namely, maintain regularity and punctuality in attending school, conduct and complete the curriculum in accordance with the provisions, complete entire curriculum within specified time, assess the learning ability of each child and accordingly supplement additional instructions if any is required, hold regular meetings with parents and guardians and appraise them about the regularity of attendance, ability to learn, progress made in learning and any other relevant information about the child. It is also written in a Right to Education Act in Article 17 specifically that no child shall be subjected to physical punishment and mental harassment, and all these basic duties have been explained in the Right to Education Act.
Dr. Gaurav, another function which you have left is the teacher shall have to perform such other functions as may be prescribed. Here, one of the important provision under section 27 of the Act is prohibition of deployment of teachers for non-educational purposes. It reads as follows: no teacher shall be deployed for any non-educational purposes other than the decennial population census, disaster relief duties, or duties relating to elections to the local authorities, the state legislatures or parliament, as the case may be. For example, if there are frequent elections in any particular state, maybe local bodies and state government and also general elections also may come. Most of the time they have to spend on these non-educational purposes in fact. So how the teacher can cope up with these tasks in addition to fulfilling these responsibilities prescribed earlier?
I think the issues that Dr. Reddy has raised are very pertinent. Look, one is that teachers must be left to teach. But as a nation, we require a large army to hold elections, to hold census and things like that. But I'm happy that at least some of the duties have been cut off from the responsibilities of the teachers, and hopefully the state governments would not put the teachers to these duties. We are aware that there are so many single teacher schools. There are schools where there is just one teacher for a subject. So this must be made aware to the administrators that teachers are required to complete the syllabus, because this has also been provided in the Act that if the syllabus doesn't get completed within the given time frame, then there would be some action taken against the teachers. I will have two views on it. One is that let us stop teacher bashing. Teachers must be given the respect that they deserve, and unless and until we give respect to teachers, how would they give respect to our children? One. Two, there are many sections in the Act which need revision. So this Act needs revision. In the revision, I think teachers must be given more freedom, must be given chance to update themselves, must be given chance to negotiate with society, parents and children. Let us not prescribe everything, because this act appears to be too prescriptive. These are important things that at the moment teachers must take note of. They must read the act itself so that they are aware of their roles and responsibilities and be cautious that no action is taken against them. Because this act, to my understanding, is very different in the sense that this also prescribes what action can be taken against teachers. So teachers must be aware that what are those roles and responsibilities. Obviously, we have read some of them. We cannot read all of them here, but I would definitely request all our listeners that they should refer to this act, read it completely, and then be aware what are the roles and responsibilities. But also suggest to the government as a stakeholder that this act needs to be revisited and some changes be made. Let us make it a friendly act. It is friendly. I don't say that it's not friendly, but let us make it more friendly.
It's very good interpretation what you made, Professor Sharma, and Dr. Reddy has also supplemented many points which I left during the discussion. Now we should move on one another important aspect. That, as I have mentioned, that Article 17 of RT Act says prohibition of physical punishment and mental harassment to child. No child shall be subjected to physical punishment and mental harassment, but there is no explanation in the act that what comes under it, how teacher can deal with the students in the classroom, and what are the issues which teacher has to keep in mind when they are dealing with the students, and also they are avoiding the corporal punishment. So I think this issue should also be reflected, that how corporal punishment has been defined and what precautions teachers should have to avoid it.
As you have rightly pointed out, this act prohibits corporal punishment and mental harassment, but nowhere it defines. Because if you look at the definitions given under the act under section 2, you will not find the definition of either physical punishment or the mental harassment, these two words which they have used. But you have to depend on other documents for its definition. For example, there are guidelines for elimination of corporal punishment in schools as brought out by NCPCR. In addition, we can depend on this United Nations Committee on Child Rights, where they specifically mention that any intentional use of physical force against the child that cause any kind of pain or harm or anxiety, that will be considered as a physical punishment. And this physical punishments, as we all know, very widely, because you can see the large spectrum of activities which can be considered as part of physical punishment, right from using hand or leg, either hand for slapping on the face or on the boxing on the ear or pulling the hair or doing anything with the child. Similarly, some teachers who may get extremely angry with the child may resort to even hand, leg also for kicking. Another thing is, if they further become angry, they use a stick or any other rod that may have readily in access. So these are the wide-ranging actions. Sometimes even a kind of pushing the child aside also may cause a kind of anxiety, that also will be considered. And if child complains, then teacher is subject to disciplinary action. So in what context the teacher is really using, whether he is using it the intention of really harming the child or a kind of bringing in discipline, has to be kept in mind. In any case, one has to avoid using of physical force in disciplining the child. That is the intention.
I very much agree with Dr. Reddy. Any form of physical punishment, hitting, should be completely avoided. There is no place in a civilized society of abusing any human being. Forget even if the child is your own child. Definitely not in schools. Now, I would like to just express my idea and let it be discussed by my listeners. What is this definition of corporal punishment? Various communities, various societies have their own definitions. I am reminded of a shlok from Ramayana in Sundarkand. The 37th shlok reads, Sachiv Vaidya Guru Teen Jo Bolahi Priya Bhayas Raj Dharma Tan Tir Kar Ho Hahi Vegahi Nas. If the doctor, the secretary and the teacher starts speaking a language of pleasing the patient, the king or the child, then the health of the patient, the health of the nation and the health of the child is definitely in danger. Let us train the teacher and convince the teacher that look, by hitting a child, abusing a child, the child doesn't learn. The concern should be enhancing learning. So, first let us convince the teachers. Let us all agree in a society that a society free of coercion, society free of punishment, then let us start talking about it. So, I would definitely say, again, corporal punishment is not a very well discussed term in our society. We only have borrowed these terms from the Western documents and Western societies, but we are also aware how teachers or general people are shirking this teaching responsibility in the West. Nobody wants to become a teacher in so many countries because the laws have become so stringent. Let us not do that in India as well. I would say, let our listeners be aware what should sort of punishments be avoided. How can we give a good atmosphere to a child where he or she can express himself, herself and completely grow. But let us not prescribe things that you cannot even tell a child that look, you have to work hard. If that becomes a corporal punishment and the child becomes traumatized and comes under psychological pressure, let us not do such extremes, I would just say.
In India, okay, a teacher shows utmost sensitivity towards the child behavior and he would not use any kind of corporal punishment in the school. But half of the time, he is spending at home and also in the neighborhood society. So how a child can be protected from corporal punishment within the home, because home is the first thing where he should feel comfortable, because this homely environment will have its impact on his behavior in the school.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I think in this brief discussion, we have touched a number of issues, number of points related to the role and responsibilities of teachers. And we have discussed that how this Right to Education Act has been implemented, why it has been implemented, and what will be its consequences later on. Even the government is working hard. And before concluding this discussion, I would like to request Professor Sarma for a final comment.
Thank you so much. I think, Gaurav, the whole issue of right to education is not really concluded in our country with this act. This has just perhaps made a beginning. There needs to be made so many changes. And also we should look at whether this act has the provisions that a typical Indian society should have. In the sense, our tradition has been treating the teacher and the taught as a family. Parent-child relationship was inculcated. Somehow we have lost that. We had a culture of Guru Shishya Parampara, which we have not been able to strengthen in our country. There is no harm still inculcating the values of teacher-student as parent-child relation and considering students as children. Somehow this has been explained as patronizing. That's not patronizing. I think if I call my student, my son or my daughter, beta, beti, I think there is nothing wrong. But then somehow this is not accepted in the Western society and we have borrowed it. We should look into the whole thing. The right to education came at a very appropriate time when Section 21A was included and then enhanced later on.
One final comment, Dr. Reddy.
See, Dr. Gaurav, this corporal punishment no doubt has been prohibited. But punishment per se has not been banned, because there are certain situations as far as the conduct of the student is concerned, which may warrant some kind of action which can be considered as a punishment. For example, the child becomes incorrigible child, resorting to serious offences, and all mechanisms have been exhausted that the teachers and headmaster can resort to. In such cases, sometimes punishment also has to be implemented in order to enforce the discipline within the school. That is extreme situation. Rest is.
I think this is a debatable issue and our listeners will listen it carefully and they will discuss in detail. At least our discussion will trigger a review and a discussion among the listeners, and they will be benefited that what this act is, and they will search that how they can implement, what is their role if they are teachers, their role if they are parents, their role. And I thank you, Professor C.B. Sharma, Dr. M.B. Lakshmi Reddy, for sparing your time with us and discuss this issue. And I thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on the topic Roles and Responsibilities of Teachers in Context of Right to Education Act 2009. The content coordinator for the program was Dr. Gaurav Singh. Audio recording was done by Pravesh Kumari and Archana, edited by Sadan Lal and produced by Reena Boro. This is an IGNOU EMPC presentation 2014.